For thousands of years, across every ocean-faring civilization on Earth, sailors told stories about a creature so massive and so terrifying that it couldn't possibly be real. The ancient Hebrews called it the Leviathan, a sea beast so powerful that only God himself could destroy it. Norse mythology described a serpent so large it wrapped around the entire planet. And the Book of Job describes the Leviathan with scales like shields and breath like flaming torches. Across many seafaring cultures, people imagined colossal monsters lurking out in the open sea. For a long time, we thought these were just the fever dreams of sailors who had spent too many months at sea. As it turns out, we were wrong. Then, in 2008, a group of paleontologists digging in the Ica Desert in Peru pulled something out of the ground that stopped everyone cold. It wasn't a myth, it wasn't a legend. It was a skull, almost 10 feet long, belonging to a creature that made the great white shark look like a goldfish. A creature that likely hunted medium-sized whales the way lions hunt large herbivores. A creature with the largest functional biting teeth of any predator to ever live. Its name is Livyatan melvillei, and it was the real Leviathan. To understand just how insane Livyatan was, you first need to understand the world it lived in. Because roughly 10 million years ago, the ocean was not the place you think it is today. The Miocene epoch was essentially the ocean's villain era. The seas were warmer, more nutrient-rich, and absolutely packed with life, which meant they were also packed with things trying to eat that life. Massive sharks cruised the open water, giant sea turtles the size of cars. Early baleen whales, ancestors of the blue whale, were already pushing enormous sizes. The ocean food web had scaled up in every direction, and sitting right at the top, looking down at everything else like it was a buffet, was Livyatan. It was a sperm whale. But calling Livyatan a sperm whale is like calling a nuclear warhead a firecracker, because they're both technically explosive. The modern sperm whale, already one of the most impressive animals alive, grows to about 60 feet long and has teeth only on its lower jaw, which it mostly uses to grab slippery squid. Livyatan grew to roughly the same length, possibly longer, but that is where the similarities end and where the nightmares begin, because Livyatan had functional teeth on both jaws. We're not talking about small teeth. We're not talking about the kind of teeth you see on a great white, which average about 2 inches long and look intimidating until you hear what comes next. Livyatan's teeth were up to 14 inches long. Some estimates push toward 15 inches. To put that in perspective, that is longer than your entire forearm. These were not tools for grabbing slippery squid in the dark. These were weapons, massive, interlocking, dagger-like weapons built for one specific purpose: killing large whales. And it was very, very good at that purpose. Picture what an actual Livyatan encounter looked like. You are a 40-foot baleen whale, cruising warm Miocene waters, doing exactly what baleen whales do, filtering massive mouthfuls of water, minding your business, completely unbothered, and then the echolocation clicks start. Based on its skull and teeth, Livyatan was likely built to seize and overpower large prey in the upper water column, probably including medium-sized baleen whales exactly like you. The initial contact would have been those interlocking 14-inch teeth driving in and refusing to let go. Orcas hunt large whales this way today, and they top out around 20 feet. Livyatan was bringing that same energy at 3 times the size. Whale attacks are not quick. They are sustained, brutal, and they require the attacker to stay committed through a prey animal that is also enormous and also fighting back. Livyatan's skull structure, thick, reinforced, built to absorb impact, tells us it was designed specifically for that kind of close-quarters violence. It wasn't a drive-by predator. It was built to finish what it started. That combination of size, teeth, and feeding anatomy makes Livyatan one of the most formidable marine predators ever discovered. Here's where things get almost hard to believe, except the fossils are right there, and they don't lie. Modern sperm whales are not predators in the traditional sense. They dive to crushing depths, locate giant squid using echolocation, and eat things that can't really fight back. They're big, they're impressive, but their whole hunting strategy is essentially go deep, eat squid, surface, repeat. Livyatan did not get that memo. Livyatan was an active macropredator, which is the scientific way of saying it was a hunter that went after large, dangerous prey by choice. Paleontologists believe its primary targets were the baleen whales sharing its ocean, ancestors of the humpbacks, the fin whales, the right whales we know today. And based on the size and structure of its jaws, researchers think it seized and overpowered its prey using sheer force, driving those enormous interlocking teeth in and refusing to let go. Think about that for a second. A sperm whale, an animal that can grow to 60 feet long and weigh 90,000 pounds. Being hunted, being the prey, being the thing that something else was looking down at and deciding it was dinner. Livyatan didn't avoid other apex predators. It was the apex predator. Every other creature in that ocean had to think twice about whether today was the day it crossed paths with one of these things. And here is the most terrifying part of all of this. Livyatan and the Megalodon lived at the exact same time, in the exact same ocean. You've probably heard of the Megalodon. It's had its moment in pop culture. Massive shark, legendary bite force. Hollywood gave it 2 movies, and the Megalodon absolutely deserves its reputation. At up to 60 feet long, possibly longer, it was one of the most formidable predators in Earth's history. Livyatan and Megalodon appear to have overlapped as top predators in Miocene seas, and they likely targeted some of the same prey. That alone makes this one of the most intimidating marine ecosystems Earth has ever seen. But here is why the matchup is so fascinating. The Megalodon was a shark, which means it attacked with its mouth, rushing prey and delivering a devastating bite, then waiting for blood loss to do the rest. It was built for that specific kind of hunt. Livyatan, on the other hand, was a whale, which means it had something the Megalodon didn't, a brain. Sperm whales today are among the most intelligent animals on Earth. They communicate in complex dialects, they have social structures, they've been observed doing what looks very much like grieving their dead. Livyatan had the same basic neural architecture, a massive sophisticated brain sitting inside that 10-foot skull. It was the ultimate contest of brains versus bite force. The Megalodon had the mouth, Livyatan had the mind. And in an ocean where both of them were hunting the same prey, that difference mattered. The ocean roughly 10 million years ago essentially had 2 final bosses, and they shared the same water. Now let's talk about the skull, because this is the part that genuinely stunned the scientific community when it was first discovered. The team that found it in Peru in 2008 wasn't even specifically looking for Livyatan. They were on a paleontological survey of the Pisco Formation, a section of coastal desert that was underwater millions of years ago and is absolutely loaded with ancient marine fossils. When they came across the skull, they initially weren't sure what they were looking at. It took time to excavate, time to analyze, and when the full picture came together, it rewrote what we thought we knew about ancient whale evolution. The skull alone was nearly 10 feet long. To put that in perspective, if you stood it on its end, the chin would be touching your floor and the top of the head would be brushing your ceiling. Inside that skull was a spermaceti organ, the same structure modern sperm whales use to generate and focus their echolocation clicks, but scaled up to a size that no one had anticipated. This means Livyatan wasn't just a brute, it was using sophisticated biosonar to hunt. It could locate prey at range, build a sound-based map of its environment, and track targets the way a submarine uses sonar to navigate. And here is where it gets even more interesting. Modern sperm whales generate some of the loudest biological sounds on Earth, clicks that can reach up to 230 decibels. To put that in context, 230 decibels is loud enough to rupture human eardrums and physically vibrate a person's body apart. The strongest support in current research is that this power serves long-range echolocation and prey detection. Whether Livyatan used its scaled-up version of that organ for something more is still an open question. But a creature that could find you with sophisticated biosonar before those 14-inch teeth arrived is already terrifying enough, even without turning sound into a confirmed weapon. The researchers named it Livyatan melvillei, Livyatan for the Hebrew Leviathan, and melvillei after Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, which is both a perfect tribute and a reminder that the fiction humans invented about terrifying whales was, it turns out, not that far from the truth. So why did it go extinct? About 5 million years ago, Livyatan disappeared from the fossil record. And the leading explanation, like most extinction stories, comes down to the ocean changing faster than the animal could adapt. The Miocene gave way to the Pliocene, and as it did, global temperatures dropped, ocean currents shifted, The incredibly productive, prey-rich warm seas that Livyatan had dominated for millions of years started changing their character. The large baleen whales that made up the bulk of its diet began migrating toward colder, more polar waters, where nutrient upwelling supported massive populations of krill, a food source that meant nothing to Livyatan, which needed to eat whole whales to survive. As ocean conditions shifted, the ecological balance that once favored a specialist like Livyatan may have simply moved beyond what it could handle. Megalodon also disappeared after major oceanic and ecological shifts, though the exact mix of causes is still debated. Two of the most powerful predators that ever lived, gone within a few million years of each other. Not defeated, not outcompeted by something bigger, just left behind by a planet that changed the rules. It's a strange thought. The ocean didn't beat them. Time did. Here's what makes this story hit different from every other ancient predator story you've heard. The great white shark we know today was just beginning its rise as Livyatan's reign was ending. These two legends actually shared the same water for a stretch of the Miocene. But back then, the shark wasn't the biggest thing in the neighborhood. The modern sperm whale has been around for several million years as well. Both of them are living in the evolutionary shadow of a world that used to contain something that made them look tame. Every time you see footage of a great white shark hunting a seal or a sperm whale diving into the dark after a squid, you are watching animals that carry the legacy of a world that once belonged to Livyatan. And the Ica Desert in Peru, that barren, sun-baked stretch of coastal rock, used to be the territory of the most terrifying predator the ocean has ever produced. Those fossils sat buried in what was once a warm, thriving sea, surrounded by the bones of everything that Livyatan ever hunted. Scientists believe there are more specimens out there. More skulls, more bones, more evidence still waiting under the desert. Long before paleontologists uncovered Livyatan, humans were already imagining sea monsters big enough to match the fear of the open ocean. The mythology was never really about one specific creature. It was about the feeling, that deep, unshakable certainty that the water hides things we are not ready to understand. Turns out that feeling was onto something. The Leviathan was real. It breathed air, it nursed its young. It was a giant toothed whale with the anatomy to hunt large prey efficiently. It did not breathe fire, and it did not wrap around the earth. But the truth of what it actually was is so much more impressive than the myth ever managed to be. Because myths are invented by people who are scared of something they can't fully explain. Livyatan melvillei needed no explanation. It just needed teeth. If this video made you rethink everything you thought you knew about what's lurking in ocean history, hit subscribe because we are just getting started on the things down there that science has actually confirmed, and most of them are going to keep you out of the water. Drop a comment telling me which ancient ocean predator you want us to cover next, and I'll see you in the next one.